pimp into goofing his whole game. If the pimp is a sucker, he'll try to drive her away with his foot in her ass. She's almost a cinch to croak him or cross him into the joint. I'm a genius. I'm hip that after a bitch has had maybe 10,000 tricks drill her, she ain't too steady skull-wise. I don't tip her I'm salty and disgusted. I talk like a sweet head shrinker to her. Indeed, of air castles, I pump her full of H. Her skull starts to jelly. I'll be worried as hell about her. I'll start sneaking slugs of morphine or chloral hydrate into her shots. While she's out, I'll maybe douse her chicken with blood. She comes to, I'll tell her I brought her in from the street. I'll tell her, I hope you didn't croak anybody while you were sleepwalking. I got 1,000 ways to drive 'em goofy. That last broad I flipped, I hung her out a 5th-floor window. I had given her a jolt of pure cocaine so she'd wake up outside that window. I was holding her by both wrists. Her feet were dangling in the air. She opened her eyes. When she looked down, she screamed like a scared baby. She was screaming when they came to get her. You see, kid? I'm all business. I ain't got an ounce of hating me. He had been driving for at least an hour. I had lost track of time and space. I saw no black faces in the streets around us. I saw tall, gleaming apartment houses. Some so tall, they seemed welded to the night sky. I said, "Yeah, Top, you're a cold, clever stud, all right. I'm sure glad you're yanking my coat. Jesus, Sweet must live in a white neighborhood." He said, "Yeah, kid. He lives just around that next corner, in the penthouse." Like I told you, he's lucky as a shithouse rat. It's $1 million building. The old white broad that owns it is Sweet's freak white dog. I said, "But don't the white tenants blow the roof because Sweet lives there?" He said, "Sweet's old white broad owns the building, but Sweet runs it. At least he runs it through an old ex-pimp pal. Sweet stuck him into a pad on the ground floor. Patch Eye, the old stud, collects the rents and keeps the porters and other flunkies on their toes. All the tenants are white gamblers and hustlers. Sweet has got the old ex-pimp running the book wide open. The action a day just from the tenants runs 2 or 3 grand. I'll say it 1,000 times. Sweet is a lucky old stud." He turned the corner. He eased the hog into the curb in front of a snow-white apartment building. A moss-green canvas canopy ran from the edge of the curb 25 yards to the Klieg-lighted fancy front of the building. A gaunt white stud in a green monkey suit was standing in stooped attention at the curb. We got out. Top walked around the hog to the doorman. The doorman said, "Good evening, gentlemen." Top said, "Hello, Jack. Do me a favor. When you take my wheels to the back, see that it's parked close to an exit. When I come out, I don't want to hassle out of there. Here's a fin, Buster." The doorman said, "Thank you, sir. I'll relay your wish to Smitty." We walked into the green-painted black marbled foyer. I was trembling like maybe a hick virgin on a casting couch. We walked up the half-dozen marble steps to an almost invisible glass door. A Boston coffee-colored broad slid it open. We stepped into the green and pearl lobby. A tan broad, as flashy as a cotton club pony, sat behind a blonde desk. We walked across the quicksand-pearled carpet to the front of it. She flashed 2 perfect dozens of the 32. Her voice was contralto silk. She said, "Good evening. May I help you?" Top said, "Stewart and Lancaster to see Mr. Jones." She turned to an elderly black broad sitting before a switchboard beside her. She told her, "Penthouse, Messrs. Stewart and Lancaster." The old broad shifted her earphones from round her wrinkled neck to her horns. She plugged in and started batting her chops together. After a moment, she nodded to the pony. We got the ivory flash again. The pony said, "Thank you so much for waiting. Mr. Jones is at home, and we'll see you." I followed Top to the elevators. A pretty brown-skinned broad in a tight green uniform zipped us up to the 15th floor. The brass door opened. We stepped out onto a gold-carpeted entrance hall. It was larger than Top's living room. A skinny Filipino in a gold lame outfit came toward us. He was grinning and bowing his head. His lank hair flopped across his skull like the wings of a wooden raven. The crystal chandelier overhead glittered his gold suit. He took my lid. He put it on the limb of a mock mother-of-pearl tree. He said, "Good evening. Follow, please." We followed him to the brink of a sunken living room. It was like a pasha's passion pit. A green light inside the gurgling bowl of a huge fountain beamed on the vulgar face of a stone woman squatting over it. She was nude and big as a baby elephant. The red light inside her skull blazed. Her eyes stared straight ahead. Her giant hands pressed the tips of her long breasts into each corner of her wide-open mouth. She was peeing serenely and endlessly into the fountain bowl. We stepped down to the champagne oriental carpet. Sweet was sitting across the dim room on a white velour couch. He was wearing a white satin smoking jacket. He looked like a huge black fly in a bucket of milk. Miss Peaches was curled at his side. She was resting her black-spotted head on a silk turquoise pillow. Sweet was stroking her back. She purred and locked her yellow eyes on us. I got a whiff of her raw animal odor. Sweet said, "Sit your black asses down. Sweetheart, you've been dangling me. What happened? Did that raggedy nickel hog break down? So, this is your square country nephew?" Top sat on the couch beside Miss Peaches. I sat in a blue velour chair, several yards to the side of Top. Sweet's gray eyes were flickering up and down me. I was nervous. I grinned at him. I jerked my eyes away to a large picture on the wall over the couch. A naked white broad was on her hands and knees. A Great Dane with his red tongue lolling out was astraddle her back. He had his paws hooked under her breasts. Her blonde head was turned, looking back at him. Her blue eyes were popped wide open. Top said, "Man, that hog ain't no plane. I got here quick as I could. You know I don't play no games on you, honey." I said, "Thank you, Mr. Jones, for letting me come up with Unc." My voice triggered the roost memory. He stiffened and glared at me. He smashed his hooks together. It sounded like pistol shots. Peaches growled and sneered. He said, "Ain't you the little shitball I chased out of the roost?" I said, "Yeah, I'm one and the same. I want to beg your pardon for making you salty that night. Maybe I could have gotten a pass if I had told you I'm your pal's nephew. I ain't got no sense, Mr. Jones. I took after my idiot father." Sweet said, "Top, this punk ain't hopeless. He's silly as a bitch grinning all the time, but dig how he butters out the con to keep his balls out of the fire. He sure ain't got no tender dick to turn down my pretty big-ass Mimi. Kid, I love black boys with the urge to pimp. Ain't no sure way to amount to something. Your uncle ain't but a good pimp. I'm the greatest pimp in the world. He wired me he's hoping you'll fold on this track and split back to the sticks. You got one whore, he tells me. You could have the makings. This joint is going to be crawling with fast whores in a couple of hours. I'm going to be pinning you. I'm going to watch how you handle yourself. Maybe I'm going to make you my protege. You got to be icy. Understand, kid? Icy? Icy? You got to stop that grinning. Freeze your map and keep it that way. Maybe I'm gonna prove to your half-ass pimp uncle that I can train even a mule to win the Kentucky Derby." Top said, "Shit, honey, you don't have to tip him. I'm pulling for his split. I love the kid. I just don't think he can cut the pimp game. The kid raps good, I ain't denying it. He should maybe be a Murphy player, or even a mitt man. His tick ain't icy enough to pimp on this track." I thought, Top's pad is a pigsty compared to this layout. It looks like I'm in. Sweet said, "Sweetheart, let's go in the bedroom and cap up and bag that stuff for those jokers. I'm gonna have old Patch Eye come up here and deal it off. I ain't no dope peddler. I'm a pimp. Kid, you can cool it. Have the Filipino bring you a taste. If you want, get it yourself from the bar over there." They went around a hand-painted gold silk screen through a doorway. Peaches padded behind them. I saw a bronze bell on the table beside the couch. I decided to get my own taste. I walked across the room to a turquoise bar. I went behind it. I took a tall crystal glass off the mirrored shelf on the wall. I mixed creme de menthe and bubbly water. I took my green cool drink and walked toward the floor-to-ceiling glass door. I slid it open and stepped up into the patio. I looked up. The April zephyrs were balleting the burnt orange and pale green Japanese lanterns. They danced on glowing jade cords strung high above the lime floor. The ice cream yellow moon seemed close enough to lick. I walked to the pearl parapet. I looked out at a brilliant sea of emerald and ruby neon bursting pastel skyrockets toward the cobalt blue sky, bejeweled with sapphire stars. I thought, Sweet sure has caught lightning in the thimble. He came out of the white man's cotton fields. He's pimped himself up to this. He's living high in the sky like a black god in heaven with the white people. He ain't no nigger doctor. He ain't no hot sheet nigger preacher, but he's here. He pimped up his scratch passport. That barbed wire stockade is 1,000,000 miles away. I got more education, I'm better looking, and younger than he is. I know I can do it too. I remembered Henry and how religious he was. Look what happened to him. I remember how I used to kneel every night by the side of the bed to pray. I really believed in God then. I knew he existed. Now, I wasn't so sure. I guess the first prison rap started to hack away at my belief in him. I often wondered in